History is written by the victors, Winston Churchill once said. But what of the moments when the victor is still silenced, laughed at, and ignored? It is September 30th, 1938. You stand among the roaring crowd outside Downing Street. The air is electric, people weep with relief, their voices rising in thunderous applause. Neville Chamberlain steps out, holding a single sheet of paper, declaring peace for our time. He has shaken hands with Hitler. He believes he has saved Britain from another devastating war. The people believe him. But not everyone joins the celebration. In a quiet, dimly lit chamber, one man sits apart, Winston Churchill. His face is carved with disbelief, his voice sharp as steel. We have sustained a total and unmitigated defeat. You feel the weight of his words. The cheers outside sound hollow, fragile, almost tragic. Here lies the paradox of leadership. Chamberlain is adored, Churchill dismissed. One promises comfort, the other warns of nightmares. Which voice would you have followed? This story, of two leaders, two visions, and the unbearable burden of foresight, is not just about the past. It is about you, about how you lead when no one believes in you. This is Legend's Legacy, where history's great battles of ideology are brought alive, not to tell you what to think, but to hand you the fire of their struggle. At the end, you must choose. Whose vision speaks to you? Share your thoughts below, and if these echoes of history stir something in you, subscribe and walk with us into the heart of destiny. Carl Jung once said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls." That is the psychology of appeasement. You watch Chamberlain at Munich, an elderly statesman, weary from years of politics, desperate to shield his nation from another blood-soaked war. The Great War had not yet faded from memory. Its trenches, its gas, its broken men haunted Britain still. To the people, Chamberlain was not just a leader, he was a savior, offering escape from the abyss. His strategy was rooted in hope. If one man's ambition could be satisfied, if peace could be bought with signatures, then perhaps the storm could be calmed. Chamberlain's leadership appealed to a universal human desire, the need to believe that tomorrow will be kinder than today. His handshake with Hitler was not just diplomacy. It was a mirror reflecting the people's fear of pain, their longing for comfort. And then there was Churchill, a man out of time, a prophet of catastrophe. He did not promise safety. He did not soothe the nation with gentle lies. Instead, his speeches burned like fire. Britain and France had to choose between war and dishonor. They chose dishonor. They will have war. His vision was not popular. It was terrifying. You stand between them. One voice whispers peace, the other thunders war. One offers reassurance, the other drags you to face the abyss. Which would you follow? This clash is more than politics. It is psychology. It is the eternal struggle between comfort and truth, between the dream of peace and the grim recognition of danger. Leadership often demands not what people want to hear, but what they most fear to face. Friedrich Nietzsche once warned, and those who were seen dancing were thought to be insane by those who could not hear the music. That was Churchill in the late 1930s. You see him rising in Parliament, his voice carrying warnings like thunder, his words dismissed as the ramblings of an alarmist. The benches around him are filled with rolled eyes, sighs, and quiet mockery. Chamberlain, calm and steady, commands the room. Churchill, restless and defiant, is left in the margins. Loneliness, that is the price of being right too soon. You feel the weight pressing on him, the isolation of a man who sees the storm before anyone else. He is called a warmonger, a relic, a man obsessed with the ghosts of war. And yet, inside him, the fire does not go out. Think of the psychology. Human beings are wired for belonging. To be laughed at, silenced, and cast aside by peers is a wound deeper than any sword. Yet Churchill bore it, his defiance sharpened in solitude. He carried the unbearable burden of foresight, while the nation clung to dreams. Chamberlain, meanwhile, basked in applause. Crowds chanted his name, newspapers praised his courage, and even the king received him as a hero. For Chamberlain, leadership was confirmation. For Churchill, it was rejection. One was carried by the tide of approval, the other stood against the tide, alone. This is the agony of true leadership, to hold to truth even when it condemns you to exile. To stand when no one stands with you. You, too, will face this test, whether in your work, your vision, or your life. The question is not whether you will be believed, but whether you will endure the silence. War is the unfolding of miscalculations, wrote Barbara Tuchman. And in September 1939, those miscalculations erupted into fire. You hear the wireless crackle, the Prime Minister's solemn voice announcing that Britain is at war with Germany. The streets fall silent. That paper of peace, once waved triumphantly in Chamberlain's hand, now hangs like a ghost. The promise of peace for our time has dissolved into smoke and rubble. For Chamberlain, the cheers have turned to whispers. His face, once greeted with hope, is now lined with shame. The very people who once hailed him as savior now look upon him with disappointment, even betrayal. The psychology of hope has curdled into anger. Chamberlain, the man of compromise, is suddenly the man who failed. And then, Churchill. The same voice that once stirred unease now becomes the voice of necessity. His words no longer sound like the warnings of a mad prophet, but the commands of a war leader. He does not promise ease. He offers only blood, toil, tears, and sweat. But in crisis, this is what the people need. Not illusions, not comfort, truth. You feel the shift in the air. The rejected becomes indispensable, the doubted becomes the anchor. Churchill's defiance, once unbearable, now feels like salvation. Chamberlain, broken by the weight of his gamble, fades into history. Churchill, once mocked, now carries the destiny of nations on his shoulders. Here lies the brutal irony. Leadership is not judged by intentions, but by outcomes. A man may be loved for his promises, yet forgotten for his failures. Another may be scorned for his warnings, yet remembered for his victories. When war comes, comfort dies, and only courage survives. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." These words echo through the lives of Neville Chamberlain and Winston Churchill. Two men, two paths, two legacies. Chamberlain's leadership teaches you the danger of mistaking hope for strategy. His desire to spare his people suffering was noble, but in seeking peace at any cost, he surrendered leverage, and with it, history's judgment. His error was not weakness of heart, but blindness of foresight. Churchill's story, by contrast, shows the unbearable price of conviction. To be ridiculed, abandoned, and despised, yet to hold to truth, that is leadership in its most brutal form. When the storm finally came, the man who refused to bend became the one the world turned to. And so the lesson reaches you. When no one believes in you, will you bend to their comfort, or will you bear the loneliness of truth? Leadership is not measured in applause, but in endurance. Not in being loved, but in being willing to stand when the world turns its back. This is the fire of history that legend's legacy exists to keep alive, not to hand you easy answers, but to leave you with the difficult questions only you can wrestle with. So now, the choice passes to you. Do you find yourself in Chamberlain's hope, or in Churchill's defiance? Whose vision do you carry into your own battles? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I read them all. And if the weight of these stories stirs something inside you, subscribe and walk with us. as we journey deeper into the minds and hearts of history's greatest leaders. For the echoes of the past are never silent, they whisper still, waiting for you to decide.